well, you know what? We ain't even gonna do that. We're gonna focus on Fury. We ain't gonna worry about the other stuff. We focus on Fury because
Yeah.
that's the main one who needs his ass whooped right about now. You know what I'm saying? That's the one he needs his ass whooped. But what is your primary focus right now going into this trilogy? What is your primary focus right now for you and Malik?
um, Not only just for me, Malik, I think I can speak for the whole team. This right here is retaliation. We want it back in blood, baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. We want it back in blood. That's what they tried to do in front of the world. And with his white privilege, he was able to surpass a lot of different things. Many people, especially in boxing, they did this, they did this, would allow them to do this.
Right.
I see no evil. I hear none, so I shall speak none.
Right.
When they know, no matter what has been said, you know, about me or anyone else that knows facts to be true, no matter what you want your mind to, you sit here and try to wrap around and not believe. One thing for sure, when you see certain things, your eyes should know the truth. How you feel. You can close your eyes and not see the truth, but you can feel the truth.
Mm-hmm.
What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. So we just heard there from Deontay, Shiante, Beyonce, Wilder. Now, unfortunately, given we're in 2021, I've got to say this. I am mixed race. I've got my mum's white and my dad's black. So I believe I've got a level of... Oh, I believe I'm allowed to speak on this, end of the day. Yeah? Because I'm sure in fact I know, it's a whole bag of man, oh YB, stop trying to be black, YB you're white. Well, YB's definitely not white. In fact, if you check on my channel, you can see yourself. If you go onto my homepage on YouTube, you'll see yourself. Anyway, listen. We've just heard there from Deontay Wilder. And this kind of narrative really does my head in. Oh man, it was white privilege whooped my ass. Oh man, what I don't like about Wilder is, yeah, when Wilder's been knocking out black people, white people, there's never once been no privilege about it, yeah? When Wilder's knocked out white and black people collectively, you know what I'm saying? He's knocked out a whole load of people. Wilder has knocked out a whole load of bums, a whole load of different race bums as well. And never once has he mentioned anything about privilege, yeah? Now, before we go into more, I want to say that there'll be some dons who think that, oh, YB, yeah, you're right, white privilege don't exist. I'm afraid to tell you, it does exist. In general, economically speaking and on a macro scale, does it, if we're talking yes or no, it does exist. However, as it pertains to boxing, boxing is probably one of the places in the world where it's close to zero. I'm struggling to think of any occasions where racial privilege comes into the sport of boxing. Now, other sports like NFL and whatnot, where NFL is run by a whole load of, or every single owner's white or whatever, that has a possibility to get in there and infiltrate and play around. But in boxing, really, it's pretty loosey-goosey as far as race goes, in my opinion. I don't see a whole load of, for example, you've got all of the big wigs in boxing actually are black when you look around. AJ, Mayweather, whoever else. So just on that basis, when you got, as it pertains to boxing, there aren't a whole load of non-black power players in the sport, and that's just the way it is. So for Wilder to sit there and even think about bringing it up, and the reason he's doing so is because it's 2021, and these are hit piece words. Ah, yes. In fact, for the purpose of this video, from now on I'll call it W privilege, just in case YouTube want to play with my monies, yeah? W privilege. Wilder's heard that over the last year or so, and he's just hopping on the bandwagon, trying to squeeze some more juice out of it. Oh man, it's it's W privilege, and no, you just got whooped. What's wrong with people these days? Why can't you just accept you got a good whooping? Yeah, Fury gave you a good whooping all over. That's on you, Wilder. And it's such a shame that we've got a 6'7", 230-pound black man. All he wants to do is cry about things that would be out of his control as such. No, you're 6'7", 230-pound. Looking ass, just got a good whooping. And that's the long and the short of it. It's got nothing. Oh man, you know, it's W privilege, and So wait there a minute. When you knocked out Duhaupas, when you knocked out the European Don, yeah. When you knocked out the European bin man, what was that then? What was that? Can he sit there and, oh man, you know, that was black privilege? No, you just give him a good whooping. And imagine it for a second. I want you man to appreciate this, yeah. Imagine, yeah, Duhaupas got knocked out by Wilder, and he came out and said, "Oh man, well, you know, well, no, Duhaupas is Europeans. He'd say, you know, it's black privilege. Black privilege knocked me out." That's what Duhaupas would have said. Duhaupas would have said, "Oh, it's black privilege that knocked me out." Imagine it. There'd be uproar. Oh, why is he bringing race into it? And arguably rightly so. If Duhaupas came out and said, "Oh, Wilder knocked me out because it is that," Wilder would laugh, yeah? Wilder would be saying, "Oh man, you see, he's thinking funny. I knocked him funny." And this is the problem, you see. Wilder would be right in that occasion. Wilder, yeah? If Duhaupas came out and said it was black privilege that whooped him, you would be 100% correct in saying that you knocked his head funny. But unfortunately, what that means for your situation is that we now must conclude that Fury has indeed whooped you into thinking funny. Yeah? Now, to be fair to you, you didn't have a whole load of IQ points anyway, but whatever points you did have been, you've lost them. Yeah, Fury whooped all the IQ out of your head. Because Fury got you thinking all the way funny right now. Oh man, it was, it was white privilege that got... In 2021, what's wrong here with two people having a scrap and one of them getting whooped? That's it. This wasn't some institutional thing where you got a police force pulling up and there's 6 policemen deep and one man gets filled with 20 bullets who's unarmed. This wasn't that. This was a 230-pound black man versus a 270-pound white man, where you both agreed the circumstances. So I'm struggling. This is the problem you see with interviewers. This guy, 78 Sports TV, big mama looking ass, who was interviewing Wilder, he's not an interviewer, he's a fangirl. He just basically stays there and blows Wilder off for 40 minutes. But a real interviewer would have said, "Wilder, wait there a minute. You've thrown out a key hit piece word there. You've thrown out white privilege, but can you actually explain the structure and the power mechanism where white privilege was exerted in your situation?" Because, like I said, globally or on a macro scale, I'm not just going to sit here and debate, "Oh, it doesn't exist." I'm sure there's people who will hear what Wilder said and argue, white privilege don't exist, and they're wrong, 100% on a macro scale. But in Wilder's position where he signed to fight Tyson Fury, someone please explain to me. I'd love to know. And this is what I'd love to hear it from Wilder. He don't even know. That's the problem. The way 2021 has got people thinking, he doesn't even know why he's saying it. He's just had so much media, so much MK Ultra fired at him over the years. People just start spouting off things that they think sounds good. "Oh man, you know, it was white privilege." But there's no. What you notice about a lot of these cats, yeah, these cats are the same cats who come into my comment section and say things like, "Oh, YB, you're wrong." But what you'll notice is every single person, not every single, 99% of the people, yeah, who say YB, you're wrong. What you notice is they can never go a level deeper. They never say why. They never flesh it out. Because they can't. Because they ain't got no argument to it. Because all they've done is they're just reacting emotionally. Or better yet, or either way, They're just spewing out things they think fits well. Oh man, Tyson Fury whooped me all over because his white privilege. So 78, the man who was interviewing should have said, Wilder, I'd love for you to expand on how did white privilege play a part in what happened to you against Fury? Please let me know. Where is it? Because in fact, any of you goofy Wilder fans out there, please fill in below. Please comment below where W privilege was so, you know what I'm saying? Where was it playing at? Because what I find funny is, guess what? When Wilder went in there against Fury in the first fight, when Wilder put Fury down 2 times, he wasn't talking about no white privilege, was he? Oh no, so wait a minute, Wilder. When you was winning, you weren't bothered about no privilege. You was happy to be knocking the guy down twice. And I think you won that fight, personally. I think a draw's fair, but I also think you won that fight. By the way, bottom line for me, I would rather be Wilder on that night than I would Fury in the first fight. Now, either way, you weren't worried about no privilege in the first fight. When you was knocking Fury down, you weren't crying about white privilege. Now all of a sudden you've lost, and you've made every excuse under the sun. Oh my suit was heavy. I was drugged. You've gone through the whole list, and now you've picked up on the white privilege thing. It's just sad. And again, I wouldn't mind if he'd have kind of given us an explanation and not just thrown out a hit piece word. These days, in 2021, it's way too easy to throw something out there and people just back off. Yeah, many interviewers, even within the establishment, they'll hear, if Wilder had said that, yeah, like seconds out, or anyone, if any reporter, to be fair, had have heard Wilder said that, because of fear of public reaction, I don't think Max Kellerman would have even asked him, if that makes sense. Very few people in this day and age would have dared to ask Wilder, what do you mean white privilege whooped you? People wouldn't even dare ask it, because, what do you mean? You can't even ask people these kind of questions these days. And I've got no problem with people having an opinion, but what I can't stand is, or what I can't tolerate is, individuals just throwing words out there. You must give substance. When you're going to make big claims like that, where's the substance to it? Where's the flesh? Tell me more about it, Wilder. Tell me more about how white privilege had anything to do with you getting filled in for you. And again, it's all about, for Wilder, it's all about removing responsibility from himself. Oh, if it's not, it can't possibly just be me. It can't possibly just be that my 6'7", pigeon chest and chicken leg looking ass with no skills got whooped. It can't possibly just be that I wasn't good enough. It must be everything. Everything. And this obviously is the latest one now, because let's not forget, it's not as if he's been quiet and this was the first thing we've heard from it. We've heard now he's bringing up W privilege, yeah? Now he's bringing this up. That is literally the book. He's literally used every excuse ever. And they're the worst ones as well. And this is actually, when I heard that, I thought, wow, this is truly perfect. Wilder really does have no shame. No shame does he have. I thought the low was when he, oh man, my suit was heavy, and my legs was tired because my suit was heavy. I thought that was the peakest, but now I've heard it all. I've absolutely heard it all. Oh man, well, when Fury was whooping me, the man, it was the man. No, it was you versus another man who you signed up for. Who, by the way, Fury don't have no power. That's the worst thing about it all. The man who whooped you, filled you in, you were the one who had a power advantage. So if anything, really, when you look at the maths, yeah, if anyone really had the right to complain, in my opinion, it's probably Fury. If anyone had, between Fury and Wilder, if anyone had a privilege, in my opinion, it would be Wilder. Wilder has the race privilege, because look at Wilder. Wilder's an athlete. Fury got a double D's hanging off his back. No one looks at Wilder and Fury and sits there and has to work out who's got the advantage racially speaking. Yeah? So if anything, Fury should be coming out and saying, Deontay Wilder, he's an athlete. You know what I'm saying? He could be sitting there and banging a drum about how his back's soft and he ain't got no power and he slaps. But he hasn't, to be fair to him, he hasn't done that. But for some reason, it's weird. It's a weird attitude today. People want to always remove responsibility from themselves. And again, in some situations, white privilege is apparent and it does play a key role. But in this one, I mean, like I said, in globally speaking, as far as the world goes, boxing is probably one of the few places where white privilege is close to zero in terms of influencing outcomes or influencing results. Next to zero. I mean, you've got one of the biggest promoters in the game. It's Al Heyman. Most of the big figures, and even then, you've got people like Eddie Hearn and whatnot. But really, he works for successful. Like Eddie doesn't. This isn't back in the 50s or whatever. Back in the 50s, yeah, I can see how you can work that out. Now though, Eddie takes a split. Eddie takes 10%. Bob Arum takes 10% of the fighters' earnings. The fighters today, they really are running things. The big fighters are, I'm talking about. Boxing is very raw. It's extremely unusual. It's not like the NFL. It's not like the basketball leagues and whatnot. So if it was ever a sport who really is independent of any racial biases, it would be boxing, 100%. Because even looking at Wilder, you show me around Wilder, what influence is there around him that could have really influenced the outcome of that fight? Name me one. Mark Breland, who he alleges did things. Mark Breland was black. Even though Mark Breland didn't do nothing anyway. But this just goes to show how goofy Wilder's thinking. And ultimately, like I said earlier, this just shows how hard Fury whooped Wilder. And I'm actually, after thinking about it and hearing this, I'm worried for Wilder now. Seriously. Because he ain't thinking straight. Fury really has whooped this man severely. Now, we saw the physical damage. We saw that Fury dented Wilder's barnet for him. But now, it appears Wilder has neurological damage here. He has cellular damage. His neurons ain't firing right. He's clearly got, I think, like level 3 delusions. Wilder is suffering, seriously. I think if there's any of you LDBC listening, any of you Super Chat Dons, you man, need to contact Wilder or the people around Wilder. In fact, yeah, it's no good contacting Wilder. He doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah? He's got some serious neurological issues. His brain is not functioning properly.